In the previous part, we were looking at how we can derive the equation for the LM curve, and using the equation, we can find the slope and vertical intercept for the LM curve. Now we want to see what the sign of the slope is and give some economic intuition behind it. So we're doing B third part. So from B2, we know the slope of LM curve. So this we found in part 2. B second part, slope of LM curve is equal to K divided by H. And we're told in the question that K is positive and H is also positive. So the ratio will also be positive. So the slope of LM curve is greater than 0. So LM curve is upward sloping as we expected. So now let's look at economic intuition of why LM curve slopes upwards. So let's see. Now we know how do we derive the LM curve. We derive the LM curve by varying output income and seeing what happens to interest rate to maintain money market equilibrium. Right. So what happens is when income increases, money demand increases. We know because we know here we know K money demand LRY is equal to KY minus HR. So as and there's a positive relationship here and negative relationship there. So we can see over here as income increases, money demand increases. Right? So now for a given supply of for a given level of money supply, for a given level of real money supply, R has to increase to maintain, to restore money market or financial market equilibrium. So this is why this is the economic intuition of why the LM curve slopes upwards. Because when you increase output income, that will increase money demand. For a given level of real money supply, so now R has to increase to maintain money market equilibrium. So an increase in Y is causing an increase in R. So now let's do the next part, which is about we want to see how does the slope, how is the slope of the LM curve affected by interest sensitivity of money demand given to us as H and income sensitivity of money demand given to us by K. So let's look at that now. So let's get this up. So first, let's see what it means. First, we want to see let's see what it means when we say LM curve is steep versus LM curve is flat. Right, so what does it mean to say the LM curve is steep? What does it mean to say LM curve is flat? For this, you need to recall. Okay, so let me just write this here. We'll draw the figure over here. So recall that we derive the LM curve by changing Y, income or output, and seeing what happens to interest rate to restore financial market equilibrium. Because when Y changes, money demand changes, right? And if money supply is not changing, then interest rate has to change. Interest rate to restore money market equilibrium for a given level of money supply. So this is how we derive it, right? So this is something that we should recall. Now, the idea is this, as the slope increases, we know the slope is positive. We're talking about the magnitude of the slope now. So as slope, so this is something we want to recall, and then as slope increases, the LM curve will be steeper, right? We get a steeper LM curve. Now, what does this steeper LM curve mean? We'll see this graphically as well. It means a given change in Y will have a larger change in interest rate, will result in a larger change in in financial market equilibrium, in money market equilibrium. So when we say the LM curve is steep, what we mean is that when you change Y, so it will result in a larger change in. So if I show this by plotting it, so I'll plot a flat LM curve and a steep LM curve. This is RY, and this is also RY. Right, let's make a flatter LM curve here. This is the flatter LM curve. And let's make a steeper LM curve here. So this is a steeper, right? This is a larger slope, steeper LM curve. So now in both cases, let's change output, right? Let's say we increase Y from Y1 to Y2 in both cases. Sorry, let me just connect this. Let's just connect this. So in both cases, we're increasing Y by the same amount, Y1 to Y2. And you can see in this case, where you have a flatter LM curve, the increase in interest rate is just this much. But in the case of steeper LM curve, for the same change in Y, we have a larger increase in the interest rate. So the idea is this: a steeper LM curve means that for a given change in Y, you will have a larger change in R to restore financial market equilibrium. That's what it means when we say you have a steeper LM curve. Now, let's look at how income sensitivity of money demand. So now we want to look at how income sensitivity of money demand which in this model is given to us as k, the coefficient of y in the money demand function, i.e. k, affects slope of LM curve, right? We want to see that affects slope of LM curve. Now, from part V2, where we found the slope, we know the slope of the LM curve is k by h. So now over here, as k increases, as money demand becomes more sensitive to changes in income, we can see the slope increases, which means that we get a steeper LM curve. And we know what a steeper LM curve means. We know a steeper LM curve means that for any given change in Y, you will have a larger change in R. Let's look at the economic intuition behind this. So economic intuition. So the economic intuition behind this is if K is high, the income sensitivity of money demand is high, then a given change in income, then a given change in Y will cause a big increase in money demand. Because obviously money demand is more sensitive to income, so when you increase income, it will cause a big increase in money demand and therefore require a large increase in R, require a large increase in R to restore money market equilibrium. Right? So this is the economic intuition of why as money demand becomes more sensitive to income, you get a steeper LM curve. Because see, what it means is that as income becomes more sensitive to money demand, any change in income will result in a larger change in money demand. So you will need a larger change in interest rate in order to restore money market equilibrium. So for a given Y, you have a larger change in R, which is what a steep LM curve means. Now let's look at how interest sensitivity of money demand affects the LM curve. So let's just keep this here. So how interest sensitivity of money demand now affects the shape of the LM curve. So instead of income, we want to look at interest sensitivity now. So let's just use this. So how interest sensitivity of money demand, i.e. H, which is the coefficient of R in our money demand function, affect the slope of LM curve. Now again, we know from part 2 the LM slope is given to us as K by H. Now as H increases, we can see slope of LM curve goes down, decreases, so the LM curve becomes flatter. So you have a flatter LM curve. And we know what a flatter LM curve means. It means that for any given change in Y, we will have a smaller change in Z. What is the economic intuition behind this? The idea is that we know okay, the way we derive the LM curve is we change income and see what happens, and then see what happens to R, right? We know given if Y increases, money demand increases. For a given level of the money, for a given level of money supply, so we're looking at this for a given level, R must increase to reduce money demand back to decrease money demand back to equilibrium, right? The money demand that is increased, you want it to reduce back so that it's again equal to the unchanged money supply. Money demand back to equilibrium. Now, if money demand is very sensitive to interest rate, it will take a smaller change in interest rate. It will take a smaller change in interest rate to restore equilibrium in money market, to restore money market equilibrium. Right? So the idea is that we know, so if we just summarize this quickly, so we know that when income increases, money demand increases. And we know for a given level of money supply, interest rate has to rise to reduce money demand. Now, if money demand is very sensitive or very responsive to changes in R, then you would need a smaller decrease in R to smaller increase in R to reduce money demand back to equilibrium. And we know when for a given change in Y, you have a smaller change in R, we get a flatter element curve.